There you go.
Good evening, everyone. 7:32, the 3rd of November. Yes, I said November. For those of you that missed it, I find that the summer and now the fall is going up very quickly. Anyway, let's do the pledge and we will get the meeting to order. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Martha?
Okay, Trustee Fritchie?
Present.
Trustee White?
Present.
Trustee Lopez?
Present.
Trustee Quesada?
Present.
Mayor Levin?
Present.
Okay, we're going to mayor's and trustees announcements.
All right. So I'm going to start this time. Usually I go last. First of all, let me re-welcome our re-elected trustees. They'll start in January, but I'm going to give them the official first congratulations to Trustee Omar Lopez and Deputy Mayor Manuel Quesada. And I just realized that. That was where I was going with the and. And Bob Fritchie.
That's 2 days in a row.
2 days in a row. And of course, Bob is going to remind me, although I reposted Bob.
I saw that.
I took pictures last night at Sing Sing Kilbrewery. Shout out to them for hosting the celebration of the people who were in the race. And I went out of my way to take pictures with all the trustees. All 5 of us were there. So it's always nice when the whole group is together. And after going through all of that and taking pictures with all sorts of folks that were there, I left off the one with Bob Fritchie, and I felt really bad. So I took the post down and put them back up. I'm glad people read my posts. That was, I'm always happy to know that. I never know if people are. So I'm going to start again. Look at me. I'm going to start with Sir Robert Fritchie. Thank you. And go to Omar Lopez. Also, congratulations to Dana Levenberg, town supervisor, Gabrielle Hamilton, who is the incoming council person, and Angela Manicchio, who is an incoming council person, Holly Perlowitz, who is continues and got reelected for a 4-year term as the favored job in the entire community, which is tax collection. And and Pete Connolly, of course, who also was reelected. Catherine Borgia at the county level, George Latimer for the executive in charge of all of us, I guess, in some way or another, for the county executive position, and a whole bunch of other people. It's all online, but those are people that directly affect our district and our community. So congratulations to all those that have won. Running for office for most of, I think most of us, is an honor. So and it's more work, I think, than people realize on one hand. On the other hand, it's also for most of us very gratifying work. So I encourage people to run. And I'm trying to see if I forgot anything. That's my immediate announcements. Then I'm going to go to my usual protocol, which is if the trustees have announcements.
I have something quick.
Please.
So the holidays are coming. Everybody's worried about supply chains and things stuck in shipping containers, and we're not going to be able to get everything we want. However, if you shop local, you don't have to worry so much about that because the products are made close to home. They don't have to go in a shipping container. And so Camp Woods is having its holiday craft fair. It's 2021 version, a little early this year. It's Saturday, November 13th, which is coming up. And they're going to be inside their wonderful auditorium, and they're also going to have people setting up outside. And it's really a great fair, and Camp Woods grounds is a great place to just check out if you haven't seen this historic area. So it's seasonal shopping for unique handcrafted items featuring local artists and craftspeople. Refreshments available, raffle and more. Please wear a mask. campwoodsgrounds.com. I'll be there. Getting my holiday gifts.
I was just checking to see if the earrings I'm currently wearing, I've gotten so many crafts pieces at that fair, and there's a ton of like Thanksgiving and Christmas handmade stuff. So thank you for reminding us all. I did think it was a little early. I assumed it's because they don't really have heating inside the building. So I think they're doing it earlier for both the daylight and it's just nicer. It's also they catch Thanksgiving, but it's really beautiful grounds. It's private. You're not really supposed to go through there. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you, Dana. Anything else? Nope. Bob? Omar? I see a yes. There
Yeah, trying to unmute myself. So number one, thank you for all of the support that I got during the campaign, and your congratulations here, Rika. It's truly a blessing and an honor and a gift to be able to serve the community in this way. And I look forward to being able to do so for the next couple of years as well. And secondly, last week and this week, I went over to the Bertholdt-Fagan Police Department in order to join the chief, the captain, lieutenants, as well as Deputy Mayor Trustee Quesada, in order to interview new police officers. And we got to see folks that were interested in joining the department. And the way, as a quick reminder for folks that are unfamiliar with the process, there's a test, the civil service test, that is offered every 4 years. Candidates can take it, and then they are scored. What we do then is, starting with folks that are at the top of the grades for the results of that test, we start interviewing folks for roles. We have a number of openings available, and so we want to take advantage of the fact that there are some great people on the list, and we have a number of openings. So it was great to be able to speak with all those candidates. The next step at this point is we have interviewed somewhere in the range of 13 or so candidates for about 6 positions. And there are, more people on the list, so we can continue to go through. But from this initial group of folks, they now this Saturday are doing the agility test, which involves running 1.5 miles, sit-ups and push-ups. And so that is a pass-fail. If candidates that are that do not pass, that fail that test, are ineligible in order to continue, those that pass will then move on to medical and psychological tests as well. The goal of all this is to make decisions by mid-December, to then start new cadets at the academy in January, and get the ball rolling from there. So more to come on the hiring front, but gratitude to OPD for all of your hard work there.
Thank you. Was that it? Great.
Yep.
And thank you for bringing that up. I think sometimes the public doesn't really know a lot of the work that goes into hiring and all the other information. So I think these meetings are helpful, especially since they're recorded, for people to sort of stay on top of that. Similarly, oh, wait a second, Manny, did I go and ask you, did you have anything? Okay, great. So in just a couple of my announcements, I want to encourage people. I didn't look to double check, so I hope I will not be proven wrong here. But last week, the village staff went through a presentation that we had asked for in the beginning of 2021 to start really looking at projects, put up our initiatives, big picture for the most part, but also some ongoing initiatives. Some are multi-year, some are due this year, and do a status report of what is happening with them. There are more than a dozen major initiatives that go on in our village. It's a lot of stuff. That's like my plain English here, a lot of stuff. And I encourage people to go on the website, look at that list. And, if you have any questions, just drop us a note at BOT at villageofossining.org and or to the village manager and ask any questions you have, because I think it's really important to know all of the things that go on in this village. Oftentimes people say to me, you know, it's the squeaky wheel syndrome in politics. I will heartily disagree with that. It is actually the opposite. It is the good everyday work that's done in the finance department, the OPD, the fire, the maintenance, the park, the community center, keeping the water clean, keeping the waterfront in good state, taking care of the parks, all of the everyday stuff that went in, and the roads. Even though they're being worked on a lot right now, as Trustee Lopez has brought to everyone's attention, but we've all been talking about it for years, that when Con Ed comes, does the work. The truth is they're doing work. That's the good news. The bad news is they're doing a lot of work. And the way they sometimes finish it has something to be desired. And so we look into that, but there are lots of initiatives, some new, some ongoing. Encourage everyone to look at it. So to me, that's sort of exciting stuff. I want to remind everybody that Veterans Day is around the corner. We have lots of veterans. Sea of Veterans, take a minute, thank them for their service. You know, fighting for our country is really a magnanimous event, I think, in people's lives. And it's something that is very important for our country. And we honor the veterans. On the 11th, it will, the village usually does, not the village municipality, but our veterans usually do an event. So please stay tuned for that and the material that's being sent out. And I think there are probably a couple of other things, but I think we need to also get through to the meeting. So let us kick off the meeting. What's the first item on the agenda? What's the first piece? We have reports?
Yeah, administrative reports, Village Manager Karen DeTore.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Tonight, I will be presenting the 2022 Manager's Proposed Budget, and that will be my report for tonight. So it is with great pleasure that I do that. Jamie, if you can share the screen and put the presentation up, please. So I am pleased to be here presenting this budget to you all tonight. This represents a tremendous amount of hard work on behalf of our staff, especially our treasurer and our deputy treasurer, Dale Brennan and Liz Nakari. Many, many hours of planning go into this, and it's quite a labor of love, and results in a very thick document that the board members will be reviewing over the next few days in great detail. So with that, I'd like to start the presentation. Next slide, please. So it is the Board of Trustees' responsibility to appropriate the budget on behalf of the village residents. And I want to thank you all, because the staff puts together the budget, and then the board reviews it and spends a tremendous amount of time. It's probably over 3 or 4 days total of reviewing this budget. So what we'll be presenting tonight is basically represents staff recommendations, and some of it is subject to change with board input over the next several days. Next slide, please. The board has fiscal oversight over village administration and management, the fire department, corporation counsel, and the police department, as well as all of our volunteer boards and commissions, our land use boards, etc. So it's quite a big job that they have. In case you were wondering, based on the average assessed home value of a house in the village, which for this year's tax roll is $351,164, approximately 26% of your tax dollar is going to the village. The majority goes to the school district, and a small portion goes to the county and town. But tonight we're really going to be focusing on exactly what that 26% goes to. So the village budget is comprised of 5 separate funds. The general fund, which is the largest fund, is the only fund that's impacted by the tax levy. The other funds, the water fund, sewer fund, section 8, and debt service fund are self-sustaining funds, meaning that they're funded through water rate, your water bill, your sewer, your water and sewer bill. In section 8, it's federal subsidies, but those are self-sustaining. It's the general fund where the taxes are levied, and that's where you have the greatest impact for fluctuation. We try very, very, very hard to stay within the tax cap and keep this budget on track as much as possible. Not only are we sensitive to it from a staff position, but most of us are taxpayers too here in Westchester, and many, many of us are taxpayers here in the village and the town as well. So we usually, it's been a practice to appropriate $650,000 pretty much every year from our fund balance, which is basically, if you think of it, or sort of our cushion. It's essentially a savings account, if you will, if villages don't really have savings accounts, but it's a cushion of emergency funding. And we appropriate $650,000 after that. We do that almost every budget. And we also appropriate a line for one-time expenses. So this is operational costs. It could be equipment or other things that we're only going to spend for 1 year, and we can take that out of fund balance as opposed to bond for it or borrow. And this is an important consideration because it does help us offset the impact of the levy. So there is this ability for the village to help keep the tax rate even lower by making sure that we, and obviously staying under the tax cap by using funds that we have in reserve. Next slide, please. So what you're seeing here is a budget increase of 3.76%. And that's our total appropriations from 21 to 22. However, the amount of our, the assessed value in the tax roll went up too. So that's offset a little bit. So while the budget's bigger, there's more bites out of the pie too. So that's helping keep our tax rate and keeping us under the tax cap. And we did have, you do see a positive change in assessed value of almost 2% from 2021 to 2022, which is a good thing. So we have a slight increase in our tax rate, about 0.6% if you round it up. But we'll go into now talking a little bit about, it's very important for us to stay under the tax cap. And this is always a little bit of a complicated thing. So I want to explain to you exactly how we manage that. And right now, the total to be, wait, just go back one quick second, Jamie. So you see there, the amount to be raised by taxes is 2.49%. So that's basically where we're at. And that is actually under the tax cap of 2%, even though it's over 2%, which I will explain shortly. Next slide, please. So each year, New York State tax cap legislation states that a municipality is entitled to raise the levy by 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. So for 2022, this is equated to a total tax levy of 2%, which was $420,965. But we also had carryover from last year. So this is unspent tax cap money from last year of a little over $170,000. And there's a slight growth factor, and a growth factor is due to new development, bricks and mortar development. So that brings the total tax cap amount up to $590, which is actually 2.5 or 2.6 if you round it up, tax percent increase. So you can see we're slightly under the tax cap increase, which is what we try to do. And we have a total adjusted levy of $23,901,561. Next slide, please. So this chart shows where your village taxes go. A lot of where your taxes go is into employee benefits, but also a huge portion goes into public safety, and that's your police department, your fire department. Also, we have, you know, a wide range of things from recreation services to services regarding homes and community and general government support. And when we go through the budget, each of these will be detailed. So everything that's in these line items, you'll get a more of a sense of what's in those dollars. But this is basically how your tax dollar is divvied up annually. And this tends to stay pretty much the same. Next slide, please. So if we're looking at our general fund spending by type, you have to, the nomenclature is a little bit different when we're doing government accounting here, but personnel services, which is really all of your salaries, then employee benefits, debt service, and contractual. And in this case, contractual would be your consulting fees as well as utility fees, basically monthly services, and then a smaller percentage for equipment and capital outlay. And if you look, these things tend, you know, we really work very, very hard to keep these spending consistent year to year. You are going to see increases in personnel services and employee benefits because that's as per our negotiated contracts. But again, the goal is to keep these as hold steady on this budget to as much as possible and be as efficient as we can be in spending. Next slide, please. So in addition to property taxes, we also have other revenue that offsets our spending in our general fund. So other than property taxes, there's pilot money, there's departmental income from fees and things like that, and a whole range of different things that also offset our spending. And to the degree that we can, some of this is within our control, and some of it's a little bit more tentative. Some of it could have been impacted through the pandemic, but we were pretty lucky. All in all, we've been steady in our revenue, and we plan that very conservatively going forward to make sure that we don't have shortfalls at the end of the year. Next slide. We also have a water fund. That's our second largest fund. So our water fund is paid mostly if you get water from the village, or you are paying a water bill, and you get that bill every month. We try to keep that increase on that bill to no more than 5% a year, and that really is the provision of water. When it comes to what our costs are associated with water, our biggest cost is our source of water, and that's the money that we pay to New York City for water. And then there's obviously the treatment of the water, purification, things like that, personnel services, employee benefits, administrative fees. But again, as with everything else, we work very hard to make these consistent, and you'll see a fairly that from over the last 3 years, we have been consistent in managing with all of the funds, managing revenue and expenses. Similarly, the Stuart Fund is also a self-sustainable fund, again, paid through fees. We will, when we go in the budget process, we'll go into all of this in more detail, but this gives you an idea of how your tax dollar is being spent in the village and what services it's providing. And again, our goal is to keep those costs as steady as we can year to year, because that's obviously very important to all of us as we're planning the budget, but not only for us, but for our residents, because this is money that's coming out of their pockets too, and we're very sensitive to that. Next slide, please. Section 8 is our housing voucher program, and this program is not a program that every municipality has. The housing voucher program allows us to help lower income people maintain their homes here through providing rental assistance, so that landlords are getting close to market rate or market rate rents, and peoples who are working valuable jobs in our school district and in our healthcare facilities and other places where the standard wage may not provide for the ability to live in a place as expensive as Westchester County. So this is a really important program, and it is predominantly funded by the federal government through HUD. But we have seen over the last several years, if you look from, and I think this is really important to note, from 2019 to 2022, we do transfer some money from our general fund to make this program whole, but that number has gone down over the years as federal subsidies have increased. And I think when we speak to Marilyn Araldo, who runs this program next week in her budget meeting, we can talk more about that and what future projections may look like. But having those expenses offset by the federal government allows us to really provide a great service for many residents here and keep people in our community, especially an important workforce and people who've been here a long time. So it's a really great program. We're lucky to have it here in Ossining. So last week I took you through all our 21 projects and the status. Today I'll take you through what we're anticipating. And these things are in the budget right now. Obviously, we are looking forward to hearing from the board and what their thoughts are. So all of this is subject to be refined and changed before we produce the final adopted budget. But for administration, we're looking at optimizing our IT systems. We also put a schedule in place a few years ago so that every 3 years we will be issuing an RFP for our professional services. So in 2022, it will be Land Use Counsel and our auditors. Planning and economic development, we have a pretty hefty project list right now. So we are looking at exploring the development of, or the creation of, a local development corporation or some sort of economic development entity that can help us and help our local businesses. This is something that the board will be hearing more about before the end of the year in a work session. We have the 30 Water Street site development that will be happening. We are considering what development opportunities may be available for our other village zone sites, and the board has expressed interest in doing an RFP for the Market Square and post office sites. 200 Main Street remediation is underway and will be completed early next year. And we will be then identifying partners to work on to transfer that property and fit it up as a private sector business. We spent a lot of time studying parking and mobility this year. 2022 will be the year to start implementing. So you will be hearing about our recommendations for implementation of the findings from the parking and mobility study. We will also be looking at the implementation of the Route 9 road diet, and the building and planning department we're focusing on improved capacity for quality of life. That's quality of life focused and customer service focused. Next slide, please. In terms of community development, the focus of our newly formed Youth Bureau, or newly created Youth Bureau, will be the creation of the Youth Advisory Board and the Youth Council. We're also will be working on police reform plan implementation. Capital improvements to municipal buildings include elevator renovations at Village Hall, as well as some safety and security improvements and building maintenance projects. Operations Center, we are recommending a new roof, as well as other things to make the building ADA compliant, which could include, depending on discussions with the board, several different improvements, including possibly an elevator. Community center renovations, we're looking to optimize space utilization and really looking to update that space and help it realize its potential. It's been some time since much of the space has been upgraded, so there's a lot we could do there. And some of it's as simple as painting and flooring, some of it's a little bit more involved, but really excellent opportunities to optimize space there. Capital improvements to our park. We really are focusing on our park. So we did get a grant for Veterans Park Playground, and we would like to also upgrade the restrooms and the roller hockey rink there. Snowden Avenue, we have some fencing to do, and Nelson Park, we'd like to upgrade some playground equipment too. And in terms of capital transportation, we'll be looking at capital paving and right-of-way improvements, as well as the Route 9 road design, planning, and implementation, which sort of got in there twice. That concludes the presentation on the tentative budget. So this presentation will be posted on our website, and comments can be made via email or through the website or writing to the village offices. And my information is here. We will be having public meetings to discuss the budget starting tomorrow from 9 to 5 p.m. and then throughout next week. It's indicated, and possibly Saturday, November 13th, if we need that extra time. So if you would like to tune in, this will be you will be able to zoom in and watch these meetings. If you need any other information, this is to the public, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I open this up. I know it's a presentation. Just to be clear, in the past, we have often received, because we do things in person, we would walk in, we get this huge binder that was barely liftable, and we would have time to look at it. This year, we really don't have the time to look at it in advance. So for all of us, this was a first look tonight, and we're starting to look in the detail tomorrow. Interesting stuff. Dale, I'm assuming that in the big book, there will be a trend, because none of this showed where we were last year or the year before. So that when we look at the numbers in detail, there's going to be a double thumbs up, yahoo. So that will be, I think it's important, especially as it relates to the tax cap and where we fall in. And what that does, even though we are just a sliver of the taxes, it took me a long time to figure that out. It always feels like, oh, the village is big, so I pay a lot of taxes to the village. As Karen said, we all live here. The 5 members of the board for sure all live in the village and the town. You have to all these positions. So, we're all in the same boat. But even though we are a big entity, the village is actually not the place where most of your taxes go to. For most of us, it's the school and other entities before you get to the sliver that accounts for the village. But we do our part to make sure that more money stays in people's wallets than not. So I have a couple questions, but let's open it up. Anybody have questions? We're obviously going through details next couple of days, but just on what you saw today. That I'll open up for the board, just some macro level questions. Details can be done in the next 3 days, where we'll be spending many, many hours looking at every line item.
Thank you, Rika, and thank you, Karen, for the presentation. My question is if you can provide some commentary about some of the macro trends that we're seeing in the economy and in the country more widely. So I'm thinking supply chain issues, COVID, that kind of stuff. How at this point does that impact the way that you are thinking about the budget?
So I think that it's going to have the biggest impact on our capital projects. And obviously, if we want to buy vehicles, it's going to have an impact there. I do think it's a concern as we're going into some very large scale capital projects. And we did build in a sort of cost factor into the bond resolution that we did for the water treatment plant. So we're hoping that that is sufficient. We did take that into consideration. So I think that it may mean that we have to look at things and how we're doing them and scheduling them based on how the supply chain issues affect timing, but as well as costs. So my guess it would be lengthening projects, or maybe deciding, choosing between different projects and reprioritizing. But for a lot of things otherwise, on the plus side, and I say this in a sense that, we've been very lucky compared to other municipalities. We have sound fund balance. We have been lucky in our community that many of our small businesses, the vast majority of our small businesses were able to survive the pandemic. We're trying to bring them more resources, looking at ways to provide, whether it's through grant resources. We still have some big grants out there pending. But I think we go forward with cautious optimism. I think if you watch the news on the national level and the local level, and even after last night, we still live in a sort of with a high level of uncertainty in many areas. So the degree that we can look at these things and plan as practically and as conservatively and thoughtfully as we can, that's really how we're addressing those issues.
Thank you. My last question is, if you were to give me one headline, what's the bullet point that I should be sharing with people as I walk around the village and they're asking me about the budget? What's the headline?
I think that the headline is that Ossining continues to do, we're making a lot of inroads with a lot of things, and we're doing it basically with a flat budget year to year.
Thank you very much. I'm good.
Anybody else?
I could go next. Thank you, Omar. That was actually a very good question. I was thinking about that early today when we're getting ready for our full day tomorrow discussions on the budget. So I'm going to take it in a little bit more detail. And Karen, you sort of mentioned, capital projects and what we do, and you mentioned vehicles. So one of the things that we always like to see that I'm going to ask tonight is if you could provide us with an updated list of all the vehicles within the village. I believe Maddie did that last year. So I'm going to put that on this list. Because it will be helpful for us to see what do we have, and I'm sure some departments are going to be asking for new vehicles. So I would like to have that list on hand prior to any of the other meetings that we may have. Obviously, capital projects is a big, it's going to be a big undertake, as Karen, you mentioned. The water plant is one of the biggest. Very unique to us, and that's something that I'm looking forward to see to start break ground hopefully within the next year or so. I'm looking forward to see obviously the budget. I know Delta is very excited, I'm sure, on sharing that for tomorrow. I don't have any specific questions on that one, as I'm just kind of browse through your presentation. I think the biggest portion that I would like to understand that I'm going to ask some of the questions, it will be to the assessors, to Fernando tomorrow, because that's a big shift of what, the assessed value comes into our village and the residents. And is always very complex. And how does that, the value of your property changes? And that's something that, as when we said, is like our budget is there, but, property taxes, some always said that, and look, we get the letter from the assessor's office and be like, but my property went up, and you guys are saying there's flat taxes. How does that work? And I think that's something that Fernando is always helpful to explain, how did that work? Has that work itself? So those questions, again, just more minor stuff that we can go over in detail tomorrow, but I'm excited to start our process tomorrow. So, thank you for all the work that you guys do, and Delt and Liz. Obviously, this I appreciate all the hard work that you guys do. Thank you.
Anybody else? Dana, Bob? That would be a no. Oh,
No, I'm good.
you're good. Okay. So, grateful for all the work to everybody, because I think this literally every department head goes into this, the police also, and some of the capital expenses, the fire department has, not every municipality actually goes to this detail, just from a perspective, a micro local perspective. Not every board ever goes line by line. A few years ago, I think that started more than a few years ago, that in Ossining, we actually look at really line by line, page by page, to make sure that the trustees who vote on this, and they're the only ones that vote on this, the rest is all recommendations and suggestions. At the end of the day, it's one of the key responsibilities of the 5 members of the board, who are the only ones that can vote and enact the budget every year. So we do take that very seriously. And look forward to it. Not everybody loves all the numbers, but the conversations that come out of it, as we've said in the past, what you have in your budget is what you will work on. And when people come to us in April and say, well, we should be doing that, we sit there and say, if it's in the budget, that is what we are looking at. If you want to know what municipalities work on, look at their budgets. And that goes across the board. So looking forward to it and asking lots of questions. And I am a person that likes to look at trends. Dale knows that. Every mayor is a little different in what they look for. So I'm going to be very interested to see, because even on this first blush, the revenues and expenses weren't exactly kept the same year to year. There's actually, even on this top line, a decrease in some revenues and increase in expenses. So we'll get to understand some of that as well. Good stuff. Anything else? I doubt there's anything else, because if anybody ever does budgets for municipalities or even in private industry, it's an all-consuming exercise of everybody involved amongst trying to run the village. So I'm feeling this is the big story headline for tonight. Am I right? And the only announcement?
I do want to just say that, you had mentioned about getting the budget in advance. So typically we're in person and we would be handing you your books at the beginning of this meeting. And we did have some books ready, and I know that, and we have them available. But we are going to be sending you this budget presentation electronically, along with the budget detail for the meetings tomorrow that you'll get tonight. So I had said first thing in the morning, but Dale, you should be getting it now.
Okay. I'm just letting folks know, because honestly, sometimes they tune into these meetings and go, well, you guys were involved in it. Not the way it works. It gets done by the village staff and presented literally to the board. We haven't sat around for the past 30 days and analyzed all of this work. It's put together in a very specific way. And that's really more of my tentative budget. It's not a budget till it's approved. Just wanted to sort of let people know, because I think, and what I've learned is sometimes understanding how government works is not as easy as maybe I'd like it to be. So we try to use this also as points of education. So I think that's your announcements. That's your presentation for tonight, right, Karen?
That would be it. Yes.
I would think so. Okay. Martha, I think we have, well, I can just do this. Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, folks. Tomorrow night is a meeting of the Environmental Advisory Council, because Tuesday was Election Day. So they do have a number of matters on their agenda. And if anyone would like to watch, they can go to the village's website. They will have the Zoom information there, and they are welcome to watch. The Zoning Board of Appeals has a full agenda for Tuesday night, November the 9th. And again, all of the applications and all of the materials are on the village's website. You can go to the Zoning Board of Appeals page and see everything there. We have instituted policies with regard to our land use boards that all presentations must be available, must be filed and presented in an appropriate time, in a timely manner, which will be consistent both with the new local law relating to the open meetings law, but also with regard to our own calendars with regard to the boards. I know that the 2022 calendars are in the works now with regard to our land use boards, and they should shortly be up on the website so people can see what the filing deadlines and meeting dates will be going forward. On tonight's agenda, the board will be calling for 2 public hearings, one with regard to the revision to Chapter 8 of the code, which relates to the Civilian Police Complaint Review Board, and the other with regard to the budget, both of which will be held on the 17th of November. Tonight's agenda also has a resolution calling for the adoption of proposed local law 15 as local law 14, which will be the adoption of the best value policy under the procurement policy. And we also have 2 nice events, the street namings for Barbara Klapkowski and for Dream Ioni Shepherd. And that's all from Corporation Counsel. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Stuart. Any quick questions, comments, etc.? Okay, and we are going on to Police Chief Kevin Sylvester. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. While I'm rarely out of uniform tonight, I am out of the office. I'm attending a joint training of the New York State Association of Chiefs of Police together with New York State Sheriffs. Today, we covered topics like the Professional Policing Act of 2021 and Executive Law Section 75, which is the Office of Police Misconduct. We had directors from both of those groups here today to try and help us understand how those are to get started. Not sure those groups know how they're going to get started, but nonetheless, we've got a foundation and it looks like the state's going to try and implement those policies in some sort of functional manner. I think there's a lot of work still to be done on that. Tomorrow, we have Duty to Intercede. 207C will be joined by folks from Keen and Bean, well known to the village. Jacqueline and Lance will be up here tomorrow to talk about that. And then we'll be doing threat assessments and critical incident policy building. So busy day today and tomorrow, as well as my budget hearing tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Over the past week, we did pumpkins, donuts, and cider at Nelson Park together with Recreation. And many thanks to Stop and Shop for their generous donation of apple cider and apple cider donuts. Very helpful. Good crowds there, still doing scheduled things because of COVID. Hopefully in 2022, we'll have the opportunity to return to our ordinarily scheduled in-person programming. If you see police officers out starting today, they caught me by surprise as I walked in this morning and was wondering why the entire day tour didn't shave. It is No Shave November. So our staff is permitted to forego razors for the next 30 days or 27 more days, whatever they've got left. They're raising money for men's health. It's through the PBA. I don't recall which charity they chose this year, but each year they choose a charity, and anybody who chooses not to shave has to donate. So raising money through that, and they'll do a little advertising on their own. Big news to share today. I know that the board got this email already. I'll share publicly. Lieutenant Jim Montague, who's been with the department for, forgive me, I don't know, but many years. He's north of 30 at this point. Jim Montague announced he's going to be retiring in 2 weeks from now from the department. So I know it's something he's thought about for a while. We're really happy that he's doing this on his terms. He's been a great service to the department. He brought back the Marine unit when we got it back. He was instrumental in changing our IT services as they changed over. He's done a lot with preventing underage drinking in our TIPS program and stuff like that. He's just a guy who's done a tremendous amount for the village, and we're really grateful for all his service. Glad to hear that he's going on to another venture, which we'll let him talk about at some other time, but leaving for good reasons. And certainly not for anything negative, but somebody that'll be missed. He provides a lot of service to our department, and he'll be a big gap to fill. With that, as Trustee Lopez mentioned, that we're in the midst of hiring. We've had a number of candidates come in to interview, as the board will soon find out, and a challenging process, which we're discussing here actively with state sheriffs and all of the police chiefs across New York State, how civil service complicates the hiring process and our mission to find a diverse class of candidates that would match the demographics of our community. So altogether good stuff, in line with everything we've promised that we were going to try to do all along, but nonetheless, not an easy mission. So that's it for tonight. Thank you.
Had my mute, sorry. Thank you, Chief. Questions, comments, top line stuff? You. Okay, Martha.
Okay, is there anybody here who would like to make an organizational announcement?
If so, do you want to raise your hand? Sorry, Martha.
Okay, I was about to ask if somebody had their hand raised.
No, no one has their hands raised, but I have a feeling there may be someone for the next piece.
Okay, is there anybody here who would like to make a public comment on any of the agenda items tonight? If
If
so,
so-
please raise your virtual hand.
Nothing. No one.
Oh.
Nope.
Okay, seeing no one, we're going to go to our village board resolutions. Approval of minutes, October 20th, 2021. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the October 20th, 2021 regular meeting as presented. Do we have a motion?
So move. Second.
Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of voucher detail November 3rd, 2021. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated November 3rd, 2021 in the amount of $408,726.92. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Comments?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Adoption of proposed local law 15, 2021 as local law 14, 2021, a local law adding a new chapter 42 procurement policy to the Village of Ossining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining Village Board has been considering the adoption of proposed local law 15, 2021 titled a local law adding a new chapter 42 procurement policy to the Village of Ossining Code. And whereas the proposed local law would add a new chapter authorizing the use of the best value option for certain purchase contracts subject to competitive bidding. And whereas a public hearing was conducted on October 20th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. via the Zoom platform pursuant to chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, affording the public the opportunity to comment on the proposed local law. And whereas the public hearing was closed on October 20th, 2021, and whereas there are no impediments to approving proposed local law 15, 2021 as local law 14, 2021, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby adopts the proposed local law 15, 2021 as local law 14, 2021 and directs that said local law be filed and or distributed in accord with applicable law. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those
Martha,
in favor?
roll call, please.
Oh, sorry, roll call. Yes. Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee Quesada,
Aye.
Trustee Fritchie,
Aye.
Trustee White,
Aye.
Mayor Levin.
Did you kill Manny Casada? If she did, okay. Yes, for me.
Okay. Let me see. Resolution approval of honorary naming of Beach Road for Barbara Klapkowski as Barbara Klapkowski Way. Whereas the purpose of the honorary street naming policy approved by the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees is to honor current and former residents of the village who have made contributions to the village through accomplishments during the honoree's lifetime. And whereas on or about June 21st, 2021, the village manager received a letter from Donna J. Hannon requesting the honorary street naming of the corner of Beach Road for Barbara Klapkowski. And whereas pursuant to the honorary street naming policy, the Board of Trustees by resolution referred the application to the village historian for a report. And whereas on or about September 1st, 2021, village historian Joy Sherrock Cole provided to the Board of Trustees a report on the application, which included a summary of Barbara Klapkowski's life and contributions to the village of Ossining. And whereas the historian's report noted the following: Barbara Klapkowski was a dedicated member of the Ossining community for 59 years. She held the roles of a concerned and active citizen, parent, church member, and dedicated civil servant. As a concerned citizen, she attended many public board meetings. In fact, she attended so many planning board meetings, it was suggested that she volunteered to serve on the board. Barbara answered the call, thus began her 30 dedicated years of service on the Village of Ossining Planning Board and Architectural Review Board. 10 of those years are served as chair, overseeing more than 1,500 applications with a meticulous eye for detail. She asked questions, challenged applications, visited sites, and furthered her education by taking courses that would increase her knowledge of the field. In 30 years of service, she missed one meeting and was present for all additional special meetings. On Sunday morning, she would have breakfast at the Highland Diner and engage in conversations with residents about their sentiments of the village. She would take the results of these conversations into account when doing her work for the village. And whereas, pursuant to the policy, a public hearing was held on the application on October 20th, 2021 via Zoom in accord with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, at which time members of the public were given the opportunity to address the Board of Trustees on the application, after which the public hearing was closed. Now therefore be it resolved that the application for the honorary street naming of Beach Road for Barbara Klapkowski as Barbara Klapkowski Way is granted, and be it further resolved that appropriate signage will be located in the aforementioned street. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? I'm going to make a quick comment. I think it was Donna Hannon that brought this. I don't know if Maddie or Jamie has.
Yes.
Okay, somebody should probably, I don't see her on here, so someone should just let her know that it was passed. And if, once we get a date, if you could coordinate with her, that would be appreciated.
We
Since
should have
she's-
the dates on Monday for all three, just to you know.
Okay, great.
So, okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution approval of honorary naming of the intersection of South Highland Avenue and Main Street as the historic Ossining Bank Building for Dream Ioni Shepherd. Whereas the purpose of the honorary street naming policy approved by the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees is to honor current and former residents of the village who have made contributions to the village through accomplishments during the honoree's lifetime. And whereas on or about September 3rd, 2021, the village mayor requested that the village historian provide a report to the Board of Trustees on a possibly honorary street naming for Dream Ioni Shepherd. And whereas on or about September 7th, 2021, village historians Joy Chirac Cole provided to the Board of Trustees a report on the application, which included a summary of Dream Ioni Shepherd's life and contributions to the village of Ossining. And whereas the historian report noted the following: Dream had an incredible commitment to change making in this world. By the age of 16, Dream had accomplished a great deal more than most people who lived to be 5 times her age. Dream was a true warrior who valiantly fought sickle cell disease from birth until she received a stem cell transplant at the age of 10. Dream endured the harsh recovery process for years after the transplant. Later, Dream would battle cancer. Dream inspired, and she and her mom fought for the passage of Dream's Law in New York State, ensuring that medically fragile people receive proper at-home professional medical care once they leave the hospital after transplant surgeries. Dream used her medical conditions and life circumstances to fight for better life quality for others is a testament to her spirit. These are gifts to not just the people of Ossining, but the people of New York State that will keep on giving. And whereas pursuant to the policy, a public hearing was held on the application on October 20th, 2021 via Zoom in accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, at which time members of the public were given the opportunity to address the Board of Trustees on the application, after which the public hearing was closed. Now therefore be resolved that the application for the honorary street naming of the intersection of South Highland Avenue and Main Street at the historic Ossining Bank Building for Dream Ioni Shepherd is granted, and be it further resolved that the appropriate signage will be located at the aforementioned intersection. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, comments? I'll make a comment. I see Diana Lemon, Dream's mom, is on here. I don't know if you want to say something or not, Diana. I mean, I'm very happy that we're moving this. We have a protocol in place for these street namings. Looking forward to being invited to it and participating along with, I'm sure, other members of the village. I'm trying to see, I'm sorry. Diana, do you want to be brought over? You can raise your hand. And really, we've discussed and all that. This is not an obligation. Actually, you know, you've been on a lot of the meetings, family members, etc.
I'm
So,
promoting her over, so she's over. She just
Great.
needs to turn on her camera.
and unmute.
I'm not going to be long because I have the little one screaming in the background. So I just wanted to say to you all, thank you again for allowing this to happen. I am so honored. I know Dream is proud wherever she is in the cosmos. So thank you all again. And I look forward to the unveiling.
Thank you. Okay, we have a first, we have a second, Martha.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Call for public hearing, proposed local law 13, 2021, titled A Local Law Amending Chapter 8, Civilian Police Complaint Review Board of the Village of Ossining Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 p.m. November 17th, 2021, to consider proposed local law 13, 2021, titled A Local Law Amending Chapter 8, Civilian Police Complaint Review Board of the Village of Ossining Code. And be it further resolved that the proposed local law amends Chapter 8, originally adopted in 2000, to include recommendations from the plan submitted to New York State as part of the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. And be it further resolved that as a result of the Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, signed into law on September 2nd, 2021 by Governor Hochul, which law authorizes any public body to meet and take such actions authorized by law without allowing the public to be physically present at the meeting. The public hearing will be conducted remotely via the Zoom platform with instructions for those who wish to attend, to watch, and to participate listed below. And be it further resolved that comments regarding the proposed local law will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at VOT@villageofossining.org. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Okay,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Call for public hearing on the Village of Ossing's 2022 budget. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 p.m. on November 17, 2021 to consider the Village of Ossing's 2022 budget. And be further resolved that pursuant to Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021 signed into law on September 2nd, 2021 by Governor House, which law authorizes any public body to meet and to take such actions authorized by law without allowing the public to be physically present at the meeting. The public hearing will be conducted remotely via the Zoom platform with instruction for those who wish to watch and or participate listed below. And be further resolved that comment regarding the Village of Ossing's 2022 budget will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofossining.org. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
All those in
Martha?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
Martha, just aye. It's Hochul, not Hochul. The governor's
Okay.
name is Hochul.
Hochul. Thank you. Hochul. Thank
Sure,
you.
no problem.
Adoption of changes to fee schedule for 2021, other than the water and sewer fees. You're the first person who's told me that.
Really? Nobody ever
somebody
gets
told me
my
that.
name
I thought I
right,
was
and
saying
always
it
think,
right. I've been saying it right in all the other meetings. I thought so. My bad.
well, you got the governor part right, people
No,
know.
but it's okay. Okay. Whereas the village's adopted financial goals and policies requires in part the establishment and periodic evaluation of user charges and fees to help reduce reliance on real property taxes. And whereas the village recently adopted Local Law 13, 2021, which amended Chapter 270 zoning by adding a new article 16 administrative adjustments. And whereas Local Law 13, 2021 will be effective upon the local laws filing with the Secretary of State. And whereas at this time, village management has recommended certain changes to the adopted fee schedule for 2021 to include the fee schedule for administrative adjustments. Now therefore be it resolved, the village's fee schedule is hereby amended effective November 3rd, 2021 for the following user charges and fees. Item administrative adjustments, Chapter 270 zoning, 2021 fee, $150. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Authorizing the village manager to sign an agreement with Hot House Designs Incorporated to develop a new design for the village seal. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign an agreement with Hot House Designs Incorporated, 2 Ellis Place, Ossining, New York, to develop a new village seal in accord with the October 25th, 2021 proposal. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
So this is, the next step in getting to a new seal design in the next few months. So I'm excited. Hot House Design, it's a local outfit, very, very experienced in this area. And we should have a seal that we can all agree on before you know it.
Not much to comment on this. I mean, thank you for bringing it up. Some things move a little more slowly, some things move faster. On the average, we're right on the average. So thank you also for bringing this up, and hopefully we'll have something great very soon. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Authorizing the village manager to sign a service level agreement with A1 Computer Services Incorporated. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign a service level agreement SLA with A1 Computer Services Incorporated, 16th Mount Enville Road South, Brewster, New York, 10509, effective November 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Authorize-
Are you abstaining, Manny?
Okay.
And we don't get a lot of abstentions. So if anybody's watching this, a trustee may choose or to explain an abstention or not. It's their prerogative and there's no explanation necessary. It's a vote, but I just, we don't get it a lot. So just want to make sure people understood.
Authorizing the village manager to issue a request for proposals for managed information technology services. Resolved that upon review by the corporation council, the village manager is authorized to issue a request for proposals for managed information technology services. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Nobody? Okay. Engagement letter, PKF O'Connor Davies. Resolved that the village board of the village of Ossining authorizes the village manager to sign an engagement letter with PKF O'Connor Davies for assistance with review of the village's American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, spending and compliance related questions regarding ARPA. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments? I think I might just have one. This was the one that was added, is that right? Or was that in there? Okay, so people, and we've gotten questions about lots of grants out there coming down from federal government, some from state. When the media talks about it, it seems very easy. Trillions, billions, hundreds of millions, and lots of chatter on social. The reality is it's not easy to manage grants, and it's time consuming. So the village manager and staff rightfully are seeking a little bit of outside support to make sure that it's all done correctly, that it's done well, and that nothing comes back to bite us, and that when the funding that we receive gets distributed, that it's distributed according to its intentions and its law, without people inadvertently making some errors. Grants sometimes come back to bite you when you don't do them correctly. And so I think this is a very smart move. I appreciate this being added in support of this, but I did want to explain to the public what this is about. Because the media makes it all sound like you get one big check and you get to spend money, whatever way you think it makes sense. That's not actually the way any of this works. So good move on the part. Thanks for putting this in. I don't know if anybody, and again, speaking in plain English, I just want people to understand what's happening, because sometimes the voting part is done so quickly. If you blink, you sort of miss it sometimes. Anybody else? We're good? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there any continuing business of the board? Is there any new business of the board?
Anybody?
Nope. Okay, is there anybody here who would like to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but are relevant to the common good of the village? If so, please click on your virtual hand to raise it. Are you seeing anybody, Jamie?
No, there's nobody. Oh, sorry,
Okay,
Jamie, but I don't
I'm
see
trying to get to the
anybody.
unmute button.
That's all right. Nobody is raising their virtual hand that I can see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then can have a motion in a second to adjourn the meeting for executive session, Stuart?
So moved.
I believe that's correct.
It's a executive. Is there anything but executive?
Not by me.
Okay.
So we're just adjourning the meeting then?
No, we're adjourning the meeting to go into exec.
Executive session, okay. Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and let's go into the vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And with that, we conclude tonight's meeting. It's 8:41 p.m. It is November 3rd. And thank you all for joining us. Be back next week with a work session. And if you want to follow some of the budget meetings, you have the information on the site to do so. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.